Well, I'm live at the Red House with my friend Max Dubinsky, the owner and operator of Fancy Groceries. And I was at an event, at a sort of a vendor event in Winston, and I noticed a booth with a well-dressed young fellow. And I was like, this looks interesting. And then I met you and
Yeah.
found out about your operation. So, like, what is Fancy Groceries?
Fancy Groceries is a men's and unisex clothing store in Winston-Salem, located inside a barbershop. So the whole building is like a mixed-use space where it's like a men's clothing store and a barbershop. And a little history of Fancy Groceries is that a fancy grocery or a staple in fancy grocery used to be a thing all across America, like dating as far back as maybe the early 1900s, late 1800s, and it would just be like a glorified general store that may have a few nicer provisions, but you could always go and get your staples that you need for the house. There used to be one right here in Winston-Salem. There's an old sign in the West End that can't come down, and that sign has been there for a really long time. And when I moved here from Los Angeles, I saw the sign. I thought the lettering was really beautiful, and I thought that it was a clothing store because it says on the window, Fancy Groceries and Clothing just for him. And I was like, and it was in front of this really just beautiful like brick building. And I got out of the car and I was like, oh, there's nothing in here. Like, this is nothing. So I researched Fancy Groceries, and you can find very little information about Fancy Groceries online. I can't find anything about the Fancy Grocery here in Winston, but I was like, wow, what a cool name and what a cool idea for a store. This was like 4 years ago, and I had no intention of opening a store, but I loved the name so much. I was like, just in case, let me like acquire this name. And so I went through all of the process of like, securing that name in every way, from the domain to all the social media, handles to trademarking it, and then 4 years later, Fancy Groceries was born inside the Ardmore Barbershop.
Man, that is, I did not know about that historical bit. Like,
Yeah, is that wild?
that is very cool.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
And so few people actually know about it because it really is like a thing that really died away. Like, you can find little bits and pieces about it. Like, you can find pictures of old receipts. I purchased some old Fancy Grocery receipts from somebody who used to have one in Ohio, like 5 brittle pieces of paper. And usually, like, you would name it like Max's staple in Fancy Grocery. So it was like your name and then your Fancy Grocery. And it was just like a common kind of general store that sometimes sold different things other than just like food and whatnot. So so we were just like, well, maybe we can bring it back, for the 21st century.
I love it.
And so it's a really cool history. And and so no one knows about it, and I know no one knows about it because everyone comes in and they're just like, why on earth is this called Fancy Groceries? A few people do come in and they say, hey, like, did you used to be on Brookstown? Because that's where the sign is. So like, I feel like I've seen your sign on Brookstown. Is that you? Like, did you have another storefront? Is that a second store? And then I can usually give them the history.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So that's the deal with Fancy Groceries.
I love it, man.
Yeah. Thank you.
Like, when I saw your booth at the event that I met you at, like, in maybe, I don't know if it's this area, maybe it's in way more areas, but like something like men's like grooming and like men's style and stuff. It is definitely something that is like a passive part of the culture here a lot of the time. And when I saw what you were doing, it really clicked in my head, and I was like, oh man, that's like an art form that is often not appreciated here in town.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that might have been part of the inspiration that you saw that need or something.
Yeah, 2 things happened. One was I moved here from Los Angeles, and I live like right outside of downtown LA. I lived in a neighborhood called Echo Park, and I also lived in West Hollywood for a while. And really doesn't matter what neighborhood I lived in, because anywhere in a city like LA, most of the time you look your best or you dress well. Like, street wear, street fashion is just a huge thing. Like, streetwear is a whole subculture. And like, you just wear cool shit and you go out to the grocery store or to the bar or to the coffee shop. Like you're just in a city full of people, and it's same in New York. It's like this in Chicago. And here I noticed that like men in particular would go out in their basketball shorts and their, and like you do that in big cities as well. I mean, it's whatever. It doesn't matter how you dress. Everyone can do what they want. But I just noticed that there was a lack of like, even at night, on a Friday night, I would see people on dates and I would just be like, man, like that guy should step up his game just a little bit, just a little bit, dude. And the second thing that would always happen is that those same people who I was noticing would stop me on the street and be like, I love your shoes. I love that fedora. Like, where did you get that jacket? And every time I'd just be like, oh man, I got it when I was living in California. Like, I got it when I was living in California. Like, and they'd be like, man, like, where do you shop? And I'd be like, I have to shop online because there's, so I noticed that there was a lot of like, I truly would get like, I don't know how to say this without just sounding like, I just would get compliments on my clothes all the time.
Yeah.
Every time I went out, someone would ask me about something that I was wearing and just being like, that's a really cool piece. Like, that's a really great hat, And so that always stuck with me every time I would go out. And so a lot of those pieces that I always got complimented on are available at Fancy Groceries. Like I brought mostly California brands or West Coast brands when it comes to clothes. I have a lot of like other goods and things that are from the East Coast and from Virginia, North Carolina, a lot of local stuff, but most of the clothing is like from the West Coast.
Yeah.
And so those were just things that happened to me a lot. And I was like, man, there must be like guys must want this, but not know how to get it. And I really missed shopping. Just like, it's very inspiring to like, you mentioned like seeing my booth at this little fair. Like sometimes it just feels good to like walk into a really beautifully like well curated space, even if you have no intention of buying something, just to like look around and like touch things and try stuff on and talk to the person who's like, like people come into Fancy Groceries all the time and we just like shoot the shit and then they leave. Like they have a beer from the cooler and like they just hang, and like it's really cool because we're also in a barbershop where like the culture of just hanging out is already existing. So I really missed that. I missed just like on a Saturday afternoon when we were living in California, just like going out, grabbing a cup of coffee and like walking around the neighborhood and like just window shopping, stopping into a couple of stores, like touching things, getting inspired. Like if you're a creative person, sometimes walking into a creative space, it's just very fulfilling.
Oh yeah.
And exciting.
Yeah.
And I've really, really, really missed that because particularly for like, it's called Fancy Groceries for all, but like being in a barbershop, we do like lean towards dressing men in particular. And I missed those kinds of spaces, stores like Buck Mason is a great example, which is an awesome clothing brand. They make a lot of stuff in LA and they just have the coolest stores around Los Angeles. And so I took a lot of inspiration even just from them.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear that.
Yeah.
I love that. Like, and something about it being paired with the barbershop too. It's this space of like, the masculine form of like giving a shit about what you look like. Mm-hmm. And that is, it's something that like, it's not like some kind of medicine that's lacking,
right.
You know what I mean? But it's just something that is like not a dominant part of the culture around here.
Yeah.
And I used to also it always stood out to me a lot when I would see people wearing like basketball Nikes or whatever, like casually.
Yeah.
Just little shit like that. It's just like, it's not only interesting, but it's like it's outdated, and it's like there's a maturity I think that comes with taking full ownership of your presentation that I think is so cool, that it like all these things that you're kind of like integrating into this space of a barbershop, like it's all just super fucking cool feeling.
And it's fun because it's really fun when guys come in and they're just like, oh man, like I didn't know that this style was like available to me. And I do think that where we are currently located, like I absolutely saw a need the moment I got here. I wasn't sure if Winston was ready for it because you either had just like suit stores, you had like just like, or you have just like outdoor clothing.
Yeah.
And like I love our outdoor clothing stores, but like where's the streetwear? Where's the casual Saturday? You don't have to wear, you can wear really like casual clothes, but still feel really good and confident and look well put together in them, and you don't have to like, there's a time and a place to enjoy wearing, fast fashion, but like I also really think fast fashion is helping destroy the planet. And I'm very adamant about not carrying anything that's like fast fashion in the store. I'm very adamant that like if you spend a little extra money on a couple of t-shirts, they're going to last you 5 years or more, season after season. Like you're going to feel better in it. You're going to treat the planet better. Like I'm wearing right now, like a shirt from Young Maven, and like I have Young Maven shirts that are 7-8 years old, and they look as great as the day I bought them, and they feel even better because they're so broken in. And so like I absolutely get my money's worth out of a t-shirt that I've had for years and years. And so that's like our other big mission at Fancy Groceries is like just letting people know that like, stuff that H&M is doing that you buy at Target, like that mass produced stuff is full of chemicals. It shreds in the wash. It shreds after, H&M is designed to fall apart after the first few times you wear it. Like they sell stuff so cheap because it falls apart, because you get to go back and buy more. And like clothes just end up in the landfill, and the dyes they use in clothes, like things are just, and obviously the working conditions in so many places where clothes are made are really horrible. So like the fast fashion industry is like really polluting. And there's actually a great like John Oliver whole bit for anyone out there who has HBO. John Oliver has a great episode literally just dedicated to like what the fast fashion industry is like doing to the planet. So we struggled a lot with like, should we open Fancy Groceries and contribute more, to what's going on out there? And so I have a very, very strict like list of criteria that you need to follow to like basically be, for like me to open an account and bring the brands that I bring in. I really try to make sure that they're doing things like well and making stuff that is really well made. And a lot of our brands are like USA made, made by hand, like cut and sewn by hand. Fibers like hemp. Hemp lasts, forever and ever. It's a really durable fabric. Yeah, a cotton t-shirt that you're wearing may take like 5,000 gallons of water just to grow. And like a hemp t-shirt takes like 7 gallons of water to grow. And it never needs watered. It usually only relies on rainwater. It's just super easy on the environment. They literally planted hemp in Chernobyl after it exploded to help like soak up the radiation and like restore the soil. It's just a miracle plant for obviously a million reasons outside of just being able to wear it. So we just try to like filter everything through that. And so like everything in the store like has a story. That's maybe a great succinct way to say it. Like everything we carry like has some sort of story behind it. And if it can't really tell a story, I feel like I shouldn't carry it.
That is very interesting.
Yeah.
So the story component, who's that for? Is that for the buyer? Is that for the ideal person that you're trying to like give them, trying to sell to?
I mean, it's a lot of it's just for me, just to feel like to know that I'm not like really contributing to just like more bullshit clothing that is bad for the planet. But it does, like, people love to know that they're buying something that is like made in California, that is hand cut and sewn, that is made of hemp, that can be washed and dried and not going to shrink and be really beat up and age with them and become a really unique piece. So I do have to tell those stories a lot to people when they're in there, when they're touching things and whatnot, because I think the concept of a slow fashion, like men's and unisex boutique still isn't quite, or like at the time when I opened Fancy Groceries a year ago, maybe wasn't quite here. Or people don't know. You don't like, even the concept of fast fashion isn't something that is, I have learned at least here isn't maybe why as widely known as I thought it might be. Because when the only places you can shop is H&M, at the mall, like that's just it, and I used to have a million clothes, I shopped at H&M all the time. Like it's, some of their pieces are really cool. I'm not like shit. And that's the thing I always am careful. Like I'm shit talking fast fashion, like, cause I think it's terrible for the planet. But I understand also that like, it's a necessity, and it's like you sometimes have to shop there. And so I don't really know how to like balance those two things out. Like how do we stop fast fashion, but also make fashion affordable? Yeah. And that's like, it's a really terrible spot that we've often put ourselves and the planet in, is like, how can we make clothes affordable? because clothes should be affordable. Clothes are a human right and a necessity. But like, how can we make them en masse without destroying the planet?
Yeah.
And I don't know how to solve that yet. I've just dipped my toe in it with Fancy Groceries, where it's like, just spend $38 on this t-shirt that you're going to want to wear every day that feels really good and is going to age with you, versus like buying a 5-pack of like Hanes t-shirts for $10, which that's great. But like, you know, you can trace back like where the exact t-shirt I'm wearing came from and like, and how it was made, versus like, so
I can see the curator heart in you, I think, like, and other people I know who curate things, they like it, they just, it's like, it's such a clear understanding of the quality that can exist here, like if appreciated correctly. Yeah. And just trying to share that with people and like help them tap into that, which is like, that's the huge thing. And like I was saying, in this area, it's like, I for example, it's really common for me to like experience attitudes around this subject as like, I just want clothes to be like plain, cheap, comfortable. Like, I don't want to look too flashy. I don't want to look too interesting. I want to go to JCPenney and like get a gray shirt and a light gray shirt. Yeah. You know, and it's like, that's like how you almost embody masculinity. That's how you embody like an identity. And you think of clothes as unimportant, and then you're like, it sounds like you're trying to help people tap into this perspective that's like, think about how important it actually might be. Right.
Well, you can come to Fancy Groceries and still get that gray t-shirt, and you know, you don't, and be unnoticeable and still just like blend in and not feel like you're dressing super fancy. Like, when we opened Fancy Groceries, we literally called it like quality basics. Like, the idea was like just earth tones, and we've like branched out. People really love colors. People really love some, you know, I've learned over the last year, like, people like, there's just as many people out there who like to stand out with a loud shirt. Where like me, I typically only wear earth tones. Like, so we still primarily focus on like quality basics. We called it quality basics for body and home, was sort of the idea behind Fancy Groceries. And while that's still there, we have expanded into carrying like, I'll never carry like formal wear, but you know, we do have some collared button down shirts, because people come in asking like, I need to go to a wedding and I've got nowhere to buy a shirt and tie. And I want to wear like a great shirt and tie, you know? So like, we do feel that need a little bit, but like, most of our stuff is like hemp t-shirts, some work wear, some street wear. But everything again is like made with intention and curated like with intention. And you know, I mean, I'm not telling people to stop shopping at Target and H&M, but like, just try to include, rather than like, you know, filling your closet up with stuff you're never going to wear, which is a huge problem I think that a lot of people have. They just buy a lot of stuff and they fill it up, and then there's a lot of stuff sitting in there that they're not wearing, that ends up at Goodwill, that ends up in landfills, and like, you know, we just throw our clothes away. Like, a question I wonder and would love to know about is like, what do you do with your clothes when you don't want them anymore? Like, do you just throw them away? Like, do you donate them? Like, where do they go? And a lot of clothing companies are doing something really amazing. There's a company I carry called Refo. They're one of the only European brands I have, but I love what they do so much. They are based in Italy, and they have these bins set up all over Italy, and the bins will say 100% cashmere, 100% denim, 100% cotton, and you just take your clothes that fit. If you have something that's 100% cotton, you throw it in the cotton bin. You take your old denim, you throw it in the denim bin. They literally just break it, all the fibers down, and then they respin them into new clothing. And it's one of the few brands that I've seen, and I mean this as a really positive compliment, because a lot of brands can sometimes claim to do stuff like this, but their clothes don't look like it. And like, their clothes like look like it. Like, their denim stuff like retains like the denim, like their recycled denim looks like recycled denim. Like, and it's so unique, and it's so very cool looking, and it's just like everything in their recycled denim is like the same blue jean like color. And so like, I think that's just really awesome, and like, that's a great way to like, you know, I wish that, you know, I'm trying to work on a program at Fancy Groceries where people can bring me their old clothes. Now, I don't make clothes. I'm very far from being able to do that. I just curate, but I'm trying to work out something with another brand where, hey, if I could collect these clothes on your behalf, could you break them down and like respin them? I feel like I'm still far away from that because there's just so many supply chain issues and things, but that is something I would love to be able to like, I would love to have a bin at Fancy Groceries that was just like, give me your 100% denim that you don't want anymore. So we can break it down and make it into new clothes.
Man, that's brilliant. That's so cool. I mean, that's so cool that company that you mentioned is doing that.
And Marine Layer does it as well. That's like a California surf brand. There's actually one in Charlotte, North Carolina now. But yeah, Marine Layer has like what they call their second spun line, and it's just like, and you can go in and drop your old shirts in there. It doesn't matter what they're made out of. They literally they have machines that just unspin, your
That's
clothing.
so cool.
And they just remake it into something else, and you can also feel it and see it in their stuff. Like, and there's a real like vintage, cool vibe and feel to the Marine Layer stuff, to the Refo stuff. That's like you can just tell that like, oh, this is made slightly differently, and I love that. I wish I could carry things that were only recycled and only hemp, but there's just not. And what is cool is that most brands now are starting, and it's really great. Young Maven was one of the only ones for a long time, and they're our best seller at the store. But a lot of brands now are starting to incorporate hemp and hemp cotton blends, which is great because, again, hemp is amazing for the environment.
Yeah. So, okay. A question keeps coming to my mind that I want to remember to ask. It's just about the idea of masculinity, I think.
Okay.
Because, like, I think a lot of guys in the South, and I don't know, I'm sure elsewhere too, a lot of guys, lots of places, probably think of fashion and like this stuff, even like journaling, because I went to your store. I loved it.
Yeah.
You have great journals. You have just like great detailed things for all of life, including like decor and stuff. And a lot of guys probably dismiss these things as like not part of them, as not masculine.
Right.
And I wonder what just like, I don't know, is that something that you've encountered a lot in life?
I think masculinity is kind of stupid, and men need more candles in their lives. I think the idea of like what a man is or what we think is manly, especially in the South, is like guys, like, come on, like light a candle and put up something on your walls and like, treat yourself to like a nice pair. Like, you don't like having, I just keep going back to candles because it's an easy target, but like having a beautiful smelling candle at your bedside does not make you less of a man. Like, so, I don't know. I'm sure. I mean, there's people who have walked into Fancy Groceries and have been like, oh, this store's not for me. Like, this is too high end. This is too, hoity-toity, or there's no real groceries here. Like, this is not for me. So I don't know if that answers your question, but like, yeah.
Yeah.
Did I answer your question? I'm not sure if I answered your question.
I think I get the vibe of what you're going for sure, or how you feel about it.
Yeah, men, like, at the end of the day, like, guys, like, it's cool. It's okay for you to clean up and shave and wash your hair with, like, great shampoo.
Yeah.
Like, use, like, really great shampoo and, like, to exfoliate and to keep your fingernails clean and to wear nice clothes, even if you're just lounging around at home. Like, you can feel really good. And COVID really introduced this, and brands really took this and ran with it. But like, a lot of what we carry at like Fancy Groceries, I sometimes refer to as like elevated loungewear, where it's like you can wear a pair of joggers around the house that if you have to go somewhere, you can just immediately pick up the keys and go out of the house and look put together.
Yeah.
But you can still lounge around in them and sleep in them. Like, they're like, and I really love offering that, because like, if you are home alone, if you are just by yourself or you're with your partner, like, there's no reason to like look like a slob all the time. Everyone, like, it feels great to slob around sometimes. And I'm not saying don't ever slob around, but like, if you're like, it was amazing for my mental health to like get out of bed. I've always been the kind of person who will like still put on a pair of jeans. Like, I make sure they're the most comfortable jeans ever, but like, I still like to put on a pair of jeans, just to feel like I'm dressed. I do a lot of work from home. I'm a video editor. I will still get dressed even though I just go into my little office, and like, cause it just feels like I'm at work, and I like to separate that a lot. So it's just really great, honestly, even just like one day a week, like, even if you're just hanging out at home, like, my, like, Lauren, my wife, she makes fun of me sometimes for just like she's like, sometimes I wish you would, be a bigger slob. Like, she's like, she's like, you just always dress so well and you always look so nice. But even when I'm like super comfortable, like I still try to dress well, just because for me, it just keeps my, like, I can get depressed very easily. And, I've struggled with it in the past. And like, it's just a thing for me that feels good. And it just keeps me like, if I'm in sweatpants for too long, if I'm in my basketball shorts for too long, like, I don't even know if I own basketball shorts anymore. But if I'm in my sweats too long, I feel like I have to get out.
Yeah. I relate to that.
Yeah.
Like especially like early in the morning, it's like, especially if I have a lot of work to do from home.
Yeah.
If I don't like change clothes, if I don't get out
Yes.
of just like I don't know, whatever psychologically, whatever that state is that my clothes are telling me that I'm in, like
Yeah.
like maybe hyper relaxation.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I'm pretty useless.
Yeah,
you know?
that hyper relaxation mode. You're absolutely right. Like and it is great to get out of bed and be cozy in the morning. I love being cozy and having my coffee, and I love having my morning. It's a very special time for me. But then there's like a moment where I'm like, okay, I got to transition now and I got to get dressed, even if I'm only going to run one errand. Like, I just want to be dressed for the day and ready for whatever comes. Also, on the note of like men and dressing and masculinity, I do think it's bizarre that like as a culture, like men expect women to just be like perfect and pristine like all the time and take care of themselves, and they go through these crazy routines to take care of themselves, and like, but like men don't put that on themselves, or like, and like people don't expect men to take it as far as, although society, I feel like, makes women, present themselves. And like, men need to fucking pick up some slack and like, also dress the part. And like, if they're gonna, it just feels very unbalanced to me that like we, like men as collectively, don't seem to take care of themselves as well, but yet expect other people to take care of themselves. And I've noticed that throughout my life, where I just think it's like, wow, man, like, it just feels unfair to me.
Yeah, it's
that society has this expectation of women, but not of men, I guess is what I'm getting at.
It is very interesting. And yeah, I wonder where the source is, because there's people who would, I'm sure there's people who would argue that like, I don't know how to compare that between cultures, you know what I mean? But like, what am I trying to say? I definitely, this is what I mean about not knowing the source. I know more women who are expressive this way, who are comfortable expressing themselves this way.
Sure.
I know fewer men who are. Who we blame for that, I have no idea, but I definitely agree with the outcome that you just described, that it's like men get, no, I'm going to start saying some shit that's like, that no one wants to hear me say. But one thing is that apparently sexually, men like are more affected by what they see than women, according to like some study I read at one point. And so I wonder if that is an influence at all, that like that plays a part. But there's bound to be a different payout, even if it isn't sexual, for men to do this. And that's what I was going to like get to before. I think this is still within the realm of masculinity. I think it's masculine to do these things. I just think it's like a different kind of masculine. I think like, people who dress appropriately for business look a certain way.
Right.
People who dress appropriately for farming look a certain way. Then there's like existing. And I think that's where men don't express themselves very much, is they express themselves so much for like a specific task.
Right.
But when it comes to like what you described, like intentionally being in a certain condition while lounging or something, they don't have a code for that. They don't have a task to associate with that.
That's a fascinating observation, where like men typically like dress for the task.
I think so.
At hand, and you're right. And I just think it's like framing it as like, it's not masculine to look a certain way or dress. Like, it's like, I spend half my day doing manual labor in my yard. Like, I have tons of space in my backyard, and my wife and I have turned the whole thing into this little mini working farm. And like, I spend so much of my time, like, I can do most, like, you can do most things and still put yourself in clothes that make you feel good. Like, and I think that's really what it comes down to, is just like, I just want to wear things that make me feel good and make me feel confident. And it just goes a long way, I think, when you're just going about your day.
100%.
And, you know, I also just like want to make sure that like I look good all the time for the person that I'm with. Like I you know, I don't ever want Lauren to wake up and be like, ugh, like, why did I don't want her to look at me and be like, God, Max has really let himself go. You know, so and I just think more men need to think that way.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, they do. I think men get really comfortable, like, really quickly.
Yep.
And because for whatever reason in society, they just have like, they're just allowed to be slobs. I don't even want to use the word slob. Just feels, but like they're just allowed to just like not take care of themselves, and it's just acceptable that a guy can let himself go a little bit. But we don't hold that same standard. You know, we shun women, you know, if they, you know, don't meet whatever the standards are. And I just am like, guys, like, just step your game up a little bit. Like,
I'm on that team. I like it. Yeah.
Just like, I mean, like, for like, if she would do it for you, like, you need to be doing it for her. Like, that is a two-way street, man. Like, you should be looking good for her every chance you get, like, you know, whenever you can. And
I love that.
You know,
I mean, honestly, and I think also we're a bit of at a stage of, so I wonder about the condition of our relationships too. And I think like something like that, like just, I mean, in every aspect that you can express intentional commitment to like the thing and its well-being. Yeah. And not just the relationship, but every part of your life. Like the better you can make your life, the better it will be. Yeah. You know, so exactly. I'm 100% on board with you. What are y'all growing over there, by the way?
Well, we've got a pretty amazing wildflowers everywhere. Flowers are everywhere, but amongst a lot of native flowers and pollinator plants, and mixed in with all of that is everything from like cucumbers to zucchini to delicata squash, butternut squash. Those are, I think, some more fall things, though the squash plants are in the ground now, you know, for fall harvest. Potatoes, carrots, nasturtiums, which is an edible flower, all the kale and lettuce, more kale and lettuce than I could know what to possibly do with, beets, a lot of microgreens. We grow a lot of microgreens in the basement. If you were to be cutting through backyards at night, like our whole basement just glows purple. All the windows in our basement that are at ground level, it looks like we have a pot farm down there. It just truly just radiates purple out into the night, and because of all the microgreens, and Lauren grows everything from seed, so she starts everything like in January, February, you know, even in the basement to get it ready. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, tomatoes. I mean, it's truly like a little mini working farm back there. It's pretty cool.
That's awesome. Yeah. I just got my garden planted out here like 3 days ago. Nice. And it's like I've lived here for almost 10 years, and this is the first time I've actually done a garden here.
What have you put in your garden?
Right now I have tomatoes, eggplant, zucchini, watermelon, pumpkin, some flowers, and some peppers.
Nice. I love that. Oh, peppers. I've got peppers as well. Yeah. Yeah. I love it. It's very satisfying. There's nothing quite like growing your own tomato, for example, and biting into your own tomato, or eating your own lettuce, or putting a pepper that you grew on top of something. Like the taste is unbelievable. And I don't know if it's just because like the hard work that, like, you toiled in doing it, but also like if you taste a grocery store tomato versus tasting your own tomato, it is a night and day difference. and that's what Lauren is trying to do, is she's trying to teach more people how to grow their own food. Yeah. And to experience that, like, just like plants are alive and they're a living thing and they're nourishing and they're beautiful and wonderful, and flowers are amazing and bees are incredible. And these are all just like wonderful things that I am so grateful that I have in my life, and because of her and what she's taught me and shown me. Yeah. And what she has taught and shown me, I really hope that she can continue to teach and show other people, because having some native pollinator plants and having even just tomatoes in your yard that you can eat it's really incredible. And she really wants kids to learn too. She's really loved to like teach kids how to grow their own food. And but Lauren is the growing expert. I am more of the manual labor. Although she has quickly become I'm quickly becoming obsolete. She is very much able to do it all herself now. So now we more are just equal, definitely equal partners out there. Although no, she's still elevated because I can't do any of the planting that she can do. Like she is a absolute professional and knows the science of everything and how it's working and germinating out there. So I try to keep up, but it's a lot.
Yeah, I definitely want to have her on here sometime and hear about all that and that effort.
Yeah, she's great. Yeah, she was in advertising for like 15 years and then just quit to garden full time. Like she just quit this year in 2022 just to focus on gardening full time. That's amazing. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
I want to make that something that I do a lot more of. It's like just having started doing it this year, I'm just like embarrassed that I haven't done it sooner. I'm like, I could see that becoming a bigger part of my lifestyle. So I'm glad I finally got around to doing it.
It's like the old saying, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago.
Yep.
The second best time is today.
Yep.
Like it's the same for gardening, man. Like the second best time to get started is like right now. There's never like not a good time, to get going. So and like, it's weird to maybe start a garden in June or July, but like even Lauren knows what to plant in June and July versus, you can't always plant the same things. And she's got this great newsletter that she puts out about it. And it's cool, man. It's cool what she's doing. And I feel lucky to be a part of it.
That's great, man. So where are y'all? I guess I could ask her bio when she comes over sometime, but where are you originally from now?
We're both from Ohio.
You're from Ohio?
Yes.
And then I guess how did you end up in LA?
I was in film school in Pittsburgh, and I just didn't want to be there anymore. And so I literally just walked out of class one day and just went to the admissions officer and was like, I'm dropping out of school. And I got in my car, I packed up. Well, I didn't leave Pittsburgh right away. I think I stayed in Pittsburgh for 6 to 8 months after I dropped out. And then I packed my car up and just drove. I tried to move to New York City first, and I was 19 and I knew nothing about anything. And I had a very difficult time trying to move to New York City. And so that didn't work out. So then I flew back to Pittsburgh, and then I packed up my car and just drove to LA. I knew one person who I had briefly worked with in Pittsburgh, and he was now in LA. And he was very lucky because his grandfather owned a home in West Hollywood. And so he was like, hey man, just come to LA and crash with me for a few days. And I ended up, crashing with him for 3 months. But yeah, that was how and then and then I had to sleep in my car for a few weeks before and then I had to leave there. He asked me for rent, and I didn't have enough money to pay the rent he needed. And I was like, I'll figure it out on my own. And that was a stupid decision. I should have taken him up on his offer, because then I was living in a Days Inn, and then I was living out of my car. Then I took a job at a hotel where I was working overnights so that I could be somewhere at night. And it was a mess. But anyway, eventually I found my feet, and I was in LA for 10 years.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's that LA life, I guess.
I mean, it's a young man's city. I feel like I've outgrown LA. It was amazing to be there in my 20s, but once I got into my 30s, I was like, this city's too much, man. Yeah. It's a great city to be single and in your 20s and and to live that starving artist life. I mean, I lived with this kid who was an actor for a while, and it was just, everyone, you sort of feel like you're all in it together, but yeah, I don't know. I got tired, and I wanted to have a garden, and Lauren wanted to have a garden, and we would never own a home out there. We had no idea. We didn't even know Winston existed when we moved here. When she got a job offer to come out here, after we met, she followed me to LA, and then she got this job offer, and I was like, okay, wherever you want to go, let's go. And, yeah, we came out here, and we were like, well, we'll just give it a try. And it's been 4 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad you did.
Yeah, I am too. I really like it here. I mean, it's great. I mean, Winston has its, I feel like sometimes I'm hard on Winston because I come from LA, because I see the potential the city has and isn't quite using. but then I have to cut it some slack and being like, okay, well, I'm not in LA. Like it's one of the biggest cities in the world. Like, Winston's behind, but I really am hoping that it will catch up to even its closest neighbors, Charlotte and Raleigh and Asheville. Like it's still behind those cities, which I guess frustrates me even more than, having been here from LA.
Well, so let me ask you about that. And it's not, don't worry. Like I have talked way more shit about Winston than anyone else.
I'm a small business owner, man. I
know.
know.
I know you can't.
No, that's fine. I'm bring it on.
No, whatever.
Send this to the city council. I have learned some things.
I'm wondering when you're describing that, like what are you describing? Like in what ways would you love to see Winston kind of develop? I think is the question.
My selfish one is the biking culture here, like for people who ride bicycles, is terrible. At least I personally think it is. There's just no real bike or pedestrian infrastructure in Winston. The bus stops literally don't even have like covers over them. Like they're just like benches on the side of the road. I have noticed they've started to put some covers over bus stops, but it's like, even again, like that just feels like a basic human right. Like put a roof over these bus stops to like give people who use public transportation out here, like, and the buses seem to only come around like once an hour. Like, so like the public transportation feels really bad out here. For walking around as a pedestrian, it feels really bad and dangerous sometimes. And then there's just no bike lanes out here. I think this is just like, I think it's a state of North Carolina thing, but like my other big like grievance with like the bike culture or lack thereof, I guess there is a big bike culture here, but the city doesn't seem to cater to pedestrians or cyclists very well. And like you look like a city like Greenville, South Carolina, which they designed their whole city around like an incredible like 17-mile like bike trail. So many smaller cities do that, and we have some beautiful greenways here that are fantastic that kind of live outside the city or like live right at Innovation Quarter. You can go around Salem Lake. Like I love doing that ride. I think it's really awesome. But as far as like biking from Ardmore or Washington Park into downtown, right? There's not like, and even once you get downtown, there's just not bike lanes. There's nowhere for like cyclists to like safely bike. You're just in it. And, one thing that's always really annoyed me about North Carolina is that I learned that like, so there's an abandoned railroad that runs, I think, from Clemens all the way into downtown. And I see it, if you ever have driven up and down Stratford, like you drive along that abandoned railroad, and it runs right across the street from the Thruway Center, and it goes down into this valley by Whole Foods, and there's these huge like groves and these hillsides around it. It's very protected. It's this completely abandoned bike route, and all I can think about, and like you will see people walking it, like you'll see people like using it, and like they walk the railroad, and all I can think about every time I see that is like what an enormous waste that is not like a part of the Rails to Trails program, where like you have this old abandoned railroad that could become a multi-use like pedestrian path that could take you from Clemens to downtown Winston-Salem on a bike, on a scooter, on foot, and like just how incredible and also because it cuts through the hills. That's why it's like when you pass Whole Foods, you're like in this like little valley, because it would just be flat because it's a train track. It would just be flat the entire way into downtown. And I hate that isn't there, but I learned that I think it's a North Carolina law where when that railroad like went out of commission, every section of it went back to the landowner that it ran over. So like that railroad is probably owned by like 200, 300 people, if not more. And so you would have to buy back every section of the railroad from those people to turn it into, so that's why North Carolina I don't think anywhere in North Carolina has a rail to trail. It's one of the only states that like I think doesn't have it because of this crazy.
Rail to Trail, by the way, is a program where they do exactly what you're describing.
Where they turn old abandoned railroads into bike trails or multi-use paths. And like another thing too, the new like I-40 that they did, like 2 years ago, that they spent 2 years working on. I think they were working on it when I moved here. Like a huge part of that was supposed to be like, I think from Ardmore into downtown they were supposed to be a multi-use path that was going to run alongside, that was pedestrian only for cyclists and for runners. And like they abandoned that as part of it. They delayed it. Like, and if you Google it and try to read about it, like there's no further information on it. It's just like, that was like the first thing they seemed to have, like they sacrificed for some reason. And again, like I just feel like that's a great example of like, I don't know, Winston just not going the extra 10%, like not going there. Like they take it 90% of the way. And then they're like, they neglect the public use of transportation, the cyclists. You know, you can read all of like Cars Ruin Cities is like a big movement. Like, you know, there's so many other cities that are having entire sections that are just dedicated to pedestrians, you know, like it's so cool when Winston blocks off certain blocks downtown and like they do the art walks and everyone can just kind of, I'm not saying that it has to be like that all the time, but like, it's just really great when pedestrians can safely walk around and cyclists can ride their bikes without worrying that like someone's going to like to have a dedicated bike lane, like to not get doored, you know, by someone opening their car door. And, you know, the streets are really narrow and thin out here. And I don't know how. I don't have a solution to this other than like if there was a way to buy back that piece of railroad, you know, to run a dedicated bike lane through town. I think it would do wonders for the city of Winston. And I was so annoyed when Winston was like, we're trying to like vote for us for like this best new highway or whatever. And I was just like, you guys didn't even finish the project. Like you literally abandoned like one of the best parts of the project, you know?
Sounds about right.
Yeah. And so I just feel like that's my own like personal grievance with like, I feel like any major city has, accommodates pedestrians, you know, somewhat decently in one form or another, be it public transportation, be it bike lanes, be it larger sidewalks, like whatever it is. And, you know, I think even to people making a stink about the scooters out here, like you guys want to be a bigger city, like let the scooters be here. And like, that's just a part of being a bigger city. Like, do you want to be a bigger city or not? Like
People complain about them.
Yeah. I mean, they disappeared for a while because the city was so like mad about.
Oh, the city was mad.
Yeah. Like I don't know who's in charge around here. I don't know who's in charge of Winston, but like, yeah, I remember reading that the people complained so much about the scooters that, you know, they think if you go on like any of like neighborhood Facebook pages, it's very easy to see people complaining about something like the scooters. And it's just like, you know, there's so many people that can now get around, you know, who can go slightly further distances. Like I've taken scooters from downtown into Ardmore. I've taken and it's like, it's great. Like, so, you know, those are just like things that big cities have. And if Winston wants to be a big city and be a major player, they need to be welcoming in some things that like just aren't here. Like like, I know I just railed against like, you know, fast fashion, but like, where's our like Anthropology or Urban Outfitters or like, where's our Mac store? Like, like, why isn't there a Starbucks downtown? Like, I don't know. Like, I get it. These are all big corporate things. And I understand the idea of wanting to have this like little mom and pop place, but I just think it contradicts with like the growth. Like, and so Winston is growing and all these properties are getting really expensive, but like someone like me, I literally cannot afford to like rent my own space in Winston. Like me doing Fancy Groceries, doing this like slow fashion shopping boutique, like I'm already priced out of like owning my own space. And I think that is a bummer because unless I took out a huge loan or got investors, which is something I didn't want to do, like I really wanted to pay for my business myself, and I have. And I understand if I want to grow, like I'm not opposed to getting an investor or what have you, but I really shouldn't have to. In a place, really anywhere, you shouldn't have to be weighed down by an insane bank loan that you can never get in front of just to open your small business. And the rents are getting so high out here that only places like Anthropology or the Apple Store, which are great stores, and they should be here because they're markers of larger cities, and you know, but they're the only ones that can afford these spaces. But it's weird to me because I feel like Winston doesn't want those people to come in. And so these gorgeous places downtown and scattered around the city sit empty. these warehouses that are just stunning, these buildings downtown. Like there's buildings that I've been here for 4 years now and they're still sitting empty. And I just like drool over them. I'm like, God, I want to put Fancy Groceries in there, but they want $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month. And it's like, you can't afford that unless you're Starbucks, like, which is great. Let Starbucks go in there, you know, like, so that's kind of where I also, just the thing about Winston, that it's just like the city needs to let some bigger businesses in, if they're not going to, if they're going to keep raising the rent prices and leave these buildings sitting empty. I would rather see Anthropology and Starbucks move in than these warehouses sit empty downtown. Because it makes our downtown look really sad when you have all these beautiful old warehouses and awesome storefronts that are just sitting empty because no one like me can afford them.
Yeah.
There's got to be a reason why all these buildings are sitting empty. Like you can't just
empty buildings.
Why would you sit? Like, what are you waiting for? Like, what payday are you waiting for by sitting on this like empty, beautiful storefront downtown? Like, why aren't we as a city advocating for Apple to open an Apple store in Innovation Quarter? Like, why aren't we as a city? Why isn't our city leaders, our city planners, like courting some of these larger brands to like come in and like fill in these spaces? Because, like it or not, like Urban Outfitters might be fast fashion, but you have 6 colleges surrounding this city, and School of the Arts right outside of downtown, Wake Forest right outside of downtown, and like Urban Outfitters is a mecca for college students to shop in. I used to shop there all the time, and if you had one downtown, you're suddenly bringing all those people downtown to shop at Urban Outfitters. And then while they're down there, like, let me go to the mom and pop store that's next door. Like, I think they can coexist. Like, they do coexist in other cities. And I just feel like I don't really see that happening in Winston-Salem. Like, those larger corporations, those larger storefronts bring in people, and then they're downtown, and while they're there, they then shop elsewhere and hang out elsewhere. And so I would love to see that happen in Winston. Like, it only helps, and I think there's this mindset that like, oh no, we're selling out, we're ruining the city by letting Starbucks open up downtown, you know?
Yeah. And like a long time ago, there was a Starbucks over by in the Embassy Suites.
Okay.
But that was like, that was like before downtown was anything. That was like when it was nothing but people that worked in like more corporate environments. So that was before everything came about. But you know what I want?
What do you want?
I want a downtown Krispy Kreme. That's what I want.
I think that'd be great.
Late night Krispy Kreme.
Why, you know what I mean? Why not have, late night anything, would be great. Yeah. But like, yeah, man, Krispy Kreme, if they opened a spot downtown off of Trade Street,
weird donuts and stuff.
Oh my God, the amount of people who like are stumbling, not that, maybe you don't want all these drunk people stumbling in, but the amount of like late night, end of the night bar traffic that you would get, like stumbling in. I don't mean to keep talking about California, but like there was a place I think it was called Santa Monica Donuts, and it was right behind my apartment. And my favorite thing to do was go there because they were open 24 hours. And like every night I would go there and get a donut. Like they made the best donuts. I was broke, and like I would love to go, and like at 2 a.m. I'd be like, man, like, you're 21 years old and you're just like fuck it. Like
it's great.
It's great, man. I want a donut at 2 a.m. And like we'd get donuts and coffee and just sit in this like coffee shop at like 2 o'clock in the morning. And I get it. Maybe Winston doesn't have enough people for that, or enough. But I see that Trade Street is just slam packed, and those bars are packed. Like,
yeah. It's a shame because like, and you probably know, like Krispy. There's so much history there with Krispy Kreme.
Well, and aren't they leaving?
It was talked about a while back.
Are they leaving Stratford? Are they closing the Stratford location?
Oh, is that what you mean?
I heard that. Yeah, I heard they're closing like the original Stratford, like Krispy Kreme.
Huh. I have no idea.
Which is crazy to me.
That would be depressing if they do. Yeah. But it's so close to the original spot in Old Salem. It's like it just should happen. It just should be there should be a branch of Krispy Kreme where they actually try to embody this whole arts and innovation thing. Yep. And they say, at this place we just experiment with donuts and stuff.
Yeah. I would love that.
I would too.
That would be really great. I would love to see I'd love to see a Krispy Kreme. I'd love to see, I would love to see more art. I just feel like in general, the art scene is very hidden in Winston, at least in my experience. And, I love Aperture. I love that we have this independent movie theater downtown. I think that's awesome. I try to go there as often as possible. I love that that's there. I love the downtown Camino location. You know, I mean, like Cranky's is great. But I also like, once you get into Innovation Quarter, I'm sort of also like, it seems like there's a lot of restaurants opening down there, which is really cool. But then you also have like 3 coffee shops like right in a row down there. And I'm just like, what, like, why? Literally there are 3 coffee shops like directly in a, like you have this brand new shining awesome space, and like to put so many things in, and like, and no shade to any of those coffee shops. I just understand who planned that.
I think, you know, a lot of it is probably people unlike yourself who haven't like lived in larger cities, including like me. If you were like asking me like, what do you think would be cool downtown? I go to Krispy Kreme because that's like where my brain goes. And I've been to a lot of cities, but really understanding what can be done in a city and like all the different things that can be artisan and can be like badass. A lot of it wouldn't occur to me.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know?
and like there's 2 other things. Like, so I love that the Ginger Fox is this new bar that's taken over the Village Juice space. One thing Winston has been missing for a really long time, and Winston needs more of, and they need, and Ginger Fox, I think, is the first to do it, is it's a sit down only bar. It's like a table service, like sit down only. There's no standing. It's low light. It's romantic. Like there's not a lot of like romance, I would say, in Winston-Salem, I think is maybe a good way to put it. Like, which weirdly ties directly into like Fancy Groceries. Like there's not a lot of reasons to like really dress up and like go out. There's not a lot of events. There's not a lot of like, and if there are, I don't know where to find them. And usually I find out about them like afterward. And the Ginger Fox is now inside the Village Juice in their downtown space. And they're 2 bartenders from New York. And they have this incredible like sit down cocktail program. And their cocktails are some of the best in the city. And they're really doing innovative, exciting things there. And I love that, like, if you want to have a chill night out with someone and like just get a drink and sit at a table, like table service cocktails, it's wonderful. And like I went to a bar that did it in Greenville, South Carolina, and it was just amazing. Like you walk in like you're going to a restaurant, but it's just cocktails.
Right.
And it's like, and it's really nice. And like I think Winston would do really well to have like 1 or 2 more bars that were that nice, where it's like you can't just like pack in like sardines, you know, like where it's really intentionally like well made as a space to really be taken care of and to experience like the craft cocktail scene. There's a new brewery that's opening on Broad Street that I'm very excited about, called, I think, Lesser Known. And I got to go inside of it the other day. I don't think they're open yet, but everything you think of when you think of a brewery, they are not it. They are very small. Like it's like a very, the decor inside, there's nothing else like it in Winston. And I'm very excited for them because their interior feels very intimate, and as opposed to being this like giant, huge vaulted ceiling, like large, wide open brewery space, this space has all these little nooks and crannies and is just so thoughtfully. It's very clear the second you walk in that someone they took it 110% of the way because they just care about what they're doing and they want to create a great experience. And, I would just love to see more of that. You know, I heard there used to be like a great tapas restaurant downtown called the Honey Pot that I guess closed like, you know, really quickly after they opened. You know, small plates is not really a thing I feel like you can get in Winston, and it's like another city thing. Like chef-driven restaurants, there's not many chef-driven restaurants.
Yeah, very few.
In Winston-Salem, and it's getting there, but there's just these things where I'm just like, you know, I just want to help. I just want to push it just a little further. And that was part of why we opened Fancy Groceries. Cause I was like, man, like I didn't want to sit around and be like, God, why is there not like a clothing store like Fancy Groceries?
Yeah.
You know, I was like, well, fuck it. We're going to open it ourselves.
Good
you know?
call.
So, and give the community a place to like hang out. And we do these like big events on Sundays. other vendors can come and set up, and use our parking lot, and it's just like they can just use it. Like there's no, I don't charge anybody to be there, and I just try to curate like a selection of people who can come, and I try to rotate through some of the chefs that are cooking on the street in Winston, and we have a farmer's market out there every Sunday, and we do it at night in the summer, so it's like the night market, we call it, and we're open from 5 to 9, and I just give people like a place to hang out and be and eat good food, and I miss that. That was another thing, like a night market, like there's a great night market in Charlotte, like there's with lights strung and all the businesses are open, and it's like it's just cool, man. Like,
yeah, that seems so obvious.
Yeah, like I mean, like another swing and a miss, like to me is like I got really excited about this like food hall opening downtown at this place called Roar.
Yeah, I just went there the other night for the first time.
And like the food hall like was just really disappointing, and it was just like it looked like it was all just like branded by like the same person, and it just looked like it was like the same. It just didn't, there was nothing unique about it. And all I could think about was like, I could list you 5 incredible chefs that are cooking on the street right now who are desperate for a restaurant and can't afford it. But like, they may have been able to afford a tiny kitchen in a food court.
Yeah.
And it's like, why didn't whoever opened Roar think about like, oh man, like I could put bootleg ramen and native root and buddy system burritos and, and people who are cooking on the street who have like name recognition, who like if anywhere native root cooks, like you'll wait in line for an hour to get to eat her food. Like same thing with bootleg ramen. Like people line up to eat these street vendors' food. I know I have them at Fancy Groceries. I see the lines, Hef's Burger Club. I mean, they were, people were, you had to wait like an hour and a half to get a burger from him. And it just really blew my mind that like someone would open a food court in downtown Winston-Salem and like not like reach out to those people and be like, how can I, like, even if they said no, like give them a space, like give these chefs, I think it's awesome that like Peyton at Mission Pizza will, when he's closed, he'll sometimes just like give Jordan at Native Root his kitchen and be like, go ahead and like open your own restaurant in my restaurant tonight.
Really?
Yeah. So he's done that with bootleg ramen. He's done that with a couple other chefs around town where like, he lets them like take over,
That's
like
incredible.
he'll do like a guest chef pop up, which is really just fucking rad.
That's very fucking cool.
And like, so anyway, I guess I was just really disappointed and like there's so many people who need, there's so many opportunities out here in Winston to like give, like I'm just focused on these street chefs right now. I love the street food scene. I think all big cities should have it. And like, but man, there's a great like Optimist Hall, I think it's called. There's like great food courts in other city in Charlotte, in Raleigh, and I guess I was hoping that Roar might have a similar concept, but like I just think there's nothing special about it. That was at least my experience.
So you have been there?
I have been.
Yeah.
And I was very disappointed. Like, I particularly went excited for the food court. And, and I keep saying like no shade to those people. Like it's great. I'm glad it's there. I just think that there was like potentially a missed opportunity to incorporate some of these established like street chefs.
Yeah.
Who are really looking for a space. And I hope someone, God, if I had the money, I would buy one of these warehouse spaces. And the first thing I would do with it is like build 5 kitchens and be like, here you guys go. Like, let's make a legit food hall in here with some of Winston's best cooks.
That's a very inspiring. That just sounds so fucking cool. And I think your observation makes a lot of sense to me. I went to Roar the other night. A buddy of mine who was connected to them, he was asking me like a year ago, like, there's this place opening, do you want to play at it? And I'm like, well, yeah, but what's the deal? And I wasn't really sure what it all was. So I went to kind of check out what it looked like for musicians. Yeah. And from what I could tell, it looked like I didn't really get a good look at the lowest level. Yeah. And like what they do there. I think that was where someone told me they had bigger shows there or would have bigger shows there. The stage area in the second level seemed interesting, but it was obviously like on the same hall as where there's like this little weird miniature bowling alley.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So I was like, I wonder how that will work.
Yeah.
for music, because like the type shit I do is
Yeah.
not going to compete well with a bowling alley. But I think the big selling point to me, the thing that made me appreciate it, was just like a rooftop bar that actually feels like a rooftop bar.
That's great.
You know,
That's great. Yeah.
that was like, this is fucking.
Yeah.
I'm glad this is here.
And I'm really glad that you also like picked out a positive thing, because I also do feel like it's easy to just complain again about like all the ways it's like screwed up. And like I'll tell anybody, like I think they messed up with the food hall.
Yeah.
I think they really messed up with like giving an opportunity to some really great already established chefs, and Winston needs a legit food hall where everyone can do their own thing, their own branding, their own spin. But like, yes, Winston absolutely needs a rooftop bar, and I'm thrilled that, you know, we now have, I think, what, 2? I think Bar Pina's got a great one, and now Roar, and like,
You could
I think
probably
that's
throw
awesome.
a frisbee from one to the other, but still.
Yeah, but like that's cool, man.
It
I
is,
mean, like
yeah.
that's really cool, and I'm really, really glad that that's there. And also, like I think their little duck pin bowling thing is like it's cool.
It's
like,
kind of hilarious.
I'm glad, like
Yeah.
again, like those are things that other larger Columbus, Charlotte, those other cities have that stuff.
Yeah.
which is really cool. Like a downtown bowling alley. Like I wish that downtown had a bowling alley.
Yeah.
You know, that was like really beautiful and served food and served cocktails and also had bowling. Like I'm glad that Roar is trying to like do that, because that's just like another sign of like a city that is like growing. And
I'm glad it's on Liberty Street, because like that was, you know, they've been
yes,
like 4 years ago or something. They were like, yeah, they're going to try to build up Liberty Street. And
Yeah.
we got Trophy Room and we got the other
Yep.
place. And it still doesn't feel like it has a life. And like,
It gets quiet,
I
yeah.
like crafted a lot when it was here.
yeah.
And then now it's gone. And it just like, now again, it feels like when I'm on Liberty Street, like it's just kind of hollow.
Yes,
so
it
I'm
does.
hoping that, you know, Roar might be one domino that will make it.
Yes.
You know.
And I'm excited. I
up
think
the
Chad's
picture.
Chai is moving in over there.
Oh, really?
They're moving into Liberty Street. They're getting a space that they've been building out. And so I'm excited that they're going to be downtown and bringing something new down there. And I think that someone is opening a restaurant in the crafted space. So hopefully that will also kind of bring it to life. But you're right. Like once you leave Trade Street, it just does sort of like hollow out for that upper section. That upper section, which is like considered the arts district.
Right.
You know, is really feels abandoned a lot of times to me. But I do love it. And one thing I love the wall of like murals in that art park. Like I love that they give artists an opportunity to like every year come and paint their own thing on there. I think Winston needs more of that. I think they like, that's just so rad to me. And I like that they do these little mural fests with it, and they bring out food trucks and you can watch the artists paint. They do it like one day every year. And, you know, there's a lot of little things in downtown that they are getting right. And then there's all these other little things that I'm just like, this is the most bizarre decision. Like, why are you doing this?
Did you see the drama around that mural that was like anti-Wake Forest or whatever?
I did. That pissed me off to no end.
That was such an interesting drama.
I think that also kind of speaks to like another like Winston problem, man. I mean, I love that Monstercade was like, do you know that like Monstercade was like, come paint it over here?
Yeah.
Which is awesome. I love Monstercade. I love Monstercade's wall of murals. I love Washington Park. You know, like that whole area is so rad, and it's so inclusive and safe. And I'm just a huge fan of what from Washington Park Barbershop to Acadia, like that. Everything that's going on right there is just very cool.
Yeah.
Very artsy. It feels very like a side street in Portland to me. But yeah, that mural, like the city and Wake just being, it's like, come on, guys, like just grow up. Like that's art. Like you want, like the fact that you have the audacity to call yourself the city of arts and innovation, and then get mad at a mural that is saying something is unbelievable to me. So you know,
I mean, spot on.
you can't get mad.
Yeah.
At a mural, no matter what it says. Okay, well, maybe there's a few things, I guess, but like, that is ridiculous. That someone is basically just calling you out, you know, saying something, putting some truth to something, and being like, this is, you know, here's a thing. I'm observing this thing happening in our city, and for this city to be like, no. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that whole subject, which we don't have to break into all together, but just the concept of like a city of the arts that has where that spirit is so not obvious.
Yes.
It is such a sadness to me, and having grown up, and a lot of my peers too, having grown up here, and like looking forward to a future of being artists.
Yeah.
It's like the future is just not there. It
Right.
just like can't be there for some reason.
And I feel like, and it's easier said than done, but when I came to Winston and when I arrived here 4 years ago, and I was like, oh, the city of arts and innovation. Like I was like, where's the art? Like, and it's here, and I'm not discounting that. It is here, and there's some awesome, awesome stuff here. But the fact that like as a visitor, I couldn't find it, I think that's problematic. Like, I should be able to hit the downtown scene and see murals everywhere. There should, I mean, like, who cares if someone's going around and putting up wheat pastes? Like, there seems to be a really restricted freedom into making like art on the street out here. And yeah, so I mean, like, and that's one of the reasons why we put up this like mural when we moved here. Like, I saw this huge empty brick wall in downtown, and I was like, like, why is there not a mural on this? Like, I got in touch with the building owner. He was like, I agree, there should be a mural on this. And he was like, you should reach out to this great artist, Georgie Nakima, or Nakama. I forget which way to pronounce her last name, and I apologize, Georgie. Garden of Journey is her like artist name, and she's based in Charlotte. And the building owner was like, you should just reach out to her and see if she wants. Like, he's like, I really love her art. And I just reached out and was like, hey, I got permission from a building owner. I've got this. It's like 300 feet. It's 30 feet tall. Like, do you want to paint something on it? You can paint whatever you want. And she was really awesome. And she was like, hey, it's going to cost for me to come up there and spend a few weeks up there working on this project. It's going to cost $9,000. That's got, for materials. I was just like, and I was like, great. And I also was like, I'm not going to negotiate with an artist. Like, whatever an artist says their rate is what they deserve to be paid. And so I was like, great, it's going to cost $9,000. And then Georgie was like, but I don't want to just like come into the neighborhood and paint something. Like, so we literally polled the whole neighborhood. This annoyed me a little because I didn't get as many responses back, like, as I would have hoped. But like, we polled the neighborhood, and I was like, what do you want to see on a mural in your neighborhood that you're going to walk past every day? And so she incorporated a lot of stuff that people mentioned, and but the response was like disappointingly low. But yeah, so, and then I was like, how do I rate? So then I literally went knocking on doors and was like, I'm trying to like bring an artist up from Charlotte. She's going to paint a mural on this wall in downtown. We're trying to expand the arts district. There's not enough artwork on the walls down there. There's blank walls everywhere I look. Like, I'm trying to fill one of them. And I raised $9,000 like very quickly.
Nice.
A few people thought it was too much money, and I was like, I don't care, because that's what she asked for, and we're gonna pay her what she asked for. Like, I'm not gonna be like, no, I think that's a little too much. I don't know if you're worth that. Like, that's just bullshit. Like, she knows what she's worth, and so we paid her that, and it was amazing to like. We had like a little, and everyone who like donated like came out like the day it was unveiled, and like it was just cool, man. And she got to paint whatever she wanted, and no notes, like. We were just like, here's your wall. Like, thanks for being here. Here's your check. And like, and then she just like went to work.
Yeah.
And it's really cool. And I would love to be able to do that again. I'm trying to figure out how to do that again. I've been kind of trying to put some distance between it, because I feel like I asked every single person in Winston to donate to this mural. And then to like go around and have to ask everyone again for a second mural just felt really exhausting to me. And also, prices are going up and everything's expensive.
Have you thought about like, I don't know if you've probably got your hands full, and this is probably not whatever, but is there, aside from something like the Arts Council, like, is there a private organization that exists that does the sole job of funding art projects like that?
I don't know. I feel like I reached out to like I think there's Arts for Art's Sake, and then I think there's the Arts Council, and then there's I tried to work with all of those people, and they were not really having it. And I just was sort of like how, one thing that I thought was really bizarre that I got from the city of Winston, because they were the first people I went to, just being like, I've I'm raising money. Do you guys want to like help? Like, how can we work together? Like, we're going to put a mural up downtown and it's going to be huge and it's going to be awesome.
Reasonable thing to do.
And it was like in the middle of the Black Lives Matter protests, like, and Georgie was painting something related to that. And like, I was just like, let's like how to like, and one of the weird responses I got, which is the response that was like, fuck it, I'm gonna do it on my own, was like, there was something about how like the city needed to guarantee that the mural would be up for like 10 years and that there was all these weird stipulations. And I was like, this is such like a mural and it's street art. Like no one can guarantee anything. Like we're just trying to put some art up, And they did. And eventually that someone from one of the councils somewhere responded to me and they were like, look, I'm just going to shoot you straight. Like, it's really rad what you're doing, but like, you're probably never going to get money for this, from the city. And I was just like, then what is the City of Arts and Innovation doing? Like, the lesson here, listener, what I'm trying to say is like, don't sit around and complain. Like, just go. Sometimes we just gotta like get together as a community and we gotta do things. Like, I loved seeing, I hated the reason that we were protesting, but like I loved seeing the protesting. Like I loved, like I love it. I love it that we have a pride parade. I love that, that people gather out here and they protest. I loved how filled downtown was when during the Black Lives Matter movement, for George Floyd. Like, it was incredible to see how like people came out and got together. And I feel like that really shows me like the power of the community and people getting together to do things. And it's awesome. And the fact that was organized here in tiny little Winston, just shows me how powerful like Winston could be. So yeah. I just like, that's, the people are here, the people are passionate, and like we can do things. What's the line? It's like, sometimes it's better just to do it and then to say you're sorry than like try to ask for permission.
Better to ask for forgiveness than permission.
Yeah. Like, and that applies sometimes with like, doing a mural, putting up street art. Like it's like, we just gotta sometimes do things. And I don't know how yet. I want to use Fancy Groceries as a vessel though, to further everything that we're talking about. Mm-hmm. It's why I host every Sunday and let these chefs just cook every Sunday in my parking lot. Like, if there's not a food hall yet, like you can have my parking lot for as long as you need it. There's not a place to go shopping for a farmer's market on Sunday. Like, you can use this parking lot for as long as you need it. I want to do a fundraiser where, for however long it takes, like, hey, every purchase, every % of the money is going to go towards funding more street art. Like, maybe do a whole thing long throughout August where it's like every purchase, 20% of every purchase goes to doing a new mural. One thing I'm working on right now is I've been gathering artists from all over Winston and just telling them like, hey, like, and they get to choose how they want to partner and they get to choose how they want to be paid, and they can have a shopping spree at Fancy Groceries. I'll pay them cash, whatever their method is, whatever they want in return, but they get to create art that incorporates Fancy Groceries in some way, for like a t-shirt, for a hat, like whatever you want, no notes. Like, you just make a thing and we're going to put it on a t-shirt. It'll be a limited run. We can split the profits of the shirt. Like, it'll never be made again. It'll only be made once. And so I'm trying to work with like the hard part about t-shirts is that like, there's a lot of fast fashion crummy t-shirts out there. I want to put this art on good t-shirts, on good hats. And so I currently have a number of artists who are like drawing just really rad stuff that we're going to sell at Fancy Groceries and put money in the artists' pockets. And so I just want to keep, I want to do a clothing drive in the, for, like I talked about earlier, like, either bring me your old clothes that we can somehow respin, or just do if it goes to Goodwill, like wherever. Like, I want to, like, if you're coming into my store and you think your closet is too full and you've got a lot of stuff that you're not using, like, give it to me and we'll figure out what to do with it, like. So that's like, Fancy Groceries to me is just about like, how can I better the problems that I see in Winston, and a lot of these things we've addressed, like like, how can I do it? Like, what can I do that I have this space and this brief opportunity that I have, however long this lasts? I just want to make sure I've utilized it in the best way possible. So that's it.
I mean, that's the best vision and mission I think an entrepreneur could possibly have in approaching their endeavor. So I mean, I think it's fucking.
Thanks, man.
That's well stated.
I'm not gonna you don't make a lot of money in retail. Like, just like, unless you're these major stores, like, you don't make a lot of money in retail. And so for me, Fancy Groceries has always been about the community. Like, I want the community to succeed and feel safe and feel included and welcomed. And no matter who they are, like, I want Fancy Groceries to be a place they feel like they can hang out and be. And I'm just, that's just the goal. And I think Social Sundays, the night markets that we do, is definitely a huge part of that. Like, there's such a diverse group of people that shows up for those. And it's just really awesome that all these people feel like they can hang out at the barbershop and at the market and also just buy clothes from Fancy Groceries.
Yeah.
You know, it's really rad. You know, I even had like I had this parent who came in and she, you know, they had a child who was like transitioning, and they were just like, they don't know where to shop right now. And like, your store is like, is it like, so much of our pieces are just like unisex. And I was just like, this is amazing. I'm so happy that like I'm here for you in this moment. Like, you know, and I don't know. Yeah, I just, whatever I can do, man, just whatever Fancy Groceries can do to, rather than being mad at Winston, you know. I hate that I get mad at Winston sometimes, but
I mean, anger's a necessary emotion in life.
But like, I don't know if I would have opened Fancy Groceries if I hadn't been mad about seeing all these beautiful empty spaces sitting around. You know, I wouldn't have opened Fancy Groceries if I was still in LA. So like, I'm really glad that I'm here, and I'm really glad, like, I'm so grateful for the city of Winston-Salem because it has allowed me to pursue this awesome project.
Exactly, man. I mean, and that's a whatever. That's an opportunity. That's a responsibility that you got to take for yourself to like get into this whole curator vibe for yourself and for this city and for this community. And it's a great thing. And you honestly make me wish I lived around Ardmore.
Well, come on down anytime, you know, come on down on Sundays even, you know. It's Sunday nights. It's a cool spot. It's really exciting to see like people milling about like that in Ardmore. I really love that we have Stella Brew next door. Like, Stella Brew is an amazing bottle shop. They've got such a rad, like, the owners are so rad, and they've got such an incredible selection of beer and wine. And I love that, like, you can come out on a Sunday and like, you can buy produce from local farms. You can get a lot of local brews. You can stop into Fancy Groceries and grab a great new tea or grab a hat, buy something new for yourself to make you feel good, buy a present for somebody. And then what has been really, really rewarding most of all is that people are coming to Sunday nights and they're just hanging out. Like, we have a row of bistro tables set up, and like, people just come and they just hang, and like, they don't just like pop in and leave. Like, they're staying. And the vendors are selling out. Like, you know, that's like, it's just awesome. Like, the vendors are there, and like, they're just selling out. The food vendors, they're selling out, and like, and it just makes me so. And they're like, when can we come back? Like, when? And I'm just like, I'm working on it. I'm trying. It's a lot to plan these events every Sunday, but I just love seeing them succeed, like, out front, and out there. So it's cool.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, when we got started, you told me you didn't know how much more than an hour you had, and it's about 3:00 now. So should we wrap it up, do you think?
Yeah, I should. Okay. We should start to maybe say goodbye.
Okay.
I've got a few more minutes if you wanted to ask something else.
I could ask loads of things, you know.
If you had to ask one other thing.
If I had to ask one other thing, I want to know about your tattoos.
Well, my tattoos are a very interesting story. I got my first one when I was 19 in college in a dorm room from someone who was like, I don't know what you call it when you're like mentoring to become a tattoo artist, whatever, like a mentee. He was training to become a tattoo artist, and he had like all his stuff, and me just being an idiot 19-year-old, I was like, yeah, sure. I would love to get tattooed by you. And he did it. And like, thank God I'm fine. And the tattoo actually is great. And like, it was, not really thinking clearly. But yeah, so I got this too shall pass tattooed on my arm from him, and it's great. It's actually one of the tattoos I get the most compliments on, just from he just freehanded that, man. Like he just
Really?
yeah. I didn't have any script in mind or anything. I just like let him tattoo whatever he wanted, and yeah. But every tattoo I've got is from a different person. I've never been to the same person twice. They're all. I mean, and every one of them has a strange story behind it. I am one of those people who's like, I haven't yet. I think about it a lot, but I haven't yet gotten a tattoo that doesn't like just to get a tattoo. Mm-hmm. That's not true. This fern, I do love ferns, but I was actually at a wedding where someone had flash tattoos, and she just had like a couple of things you could get tattooed, and she would just jam out tattoos on you. And,
that's so cool.
And so anyway, a fern was one of her things, and so I got this fern done. But also I love ferns. I have a whole fern garden in my front yard, and I was a landscaper for a year. So even to say it means nothing, it still means something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Was there anything specific you wanted to know? But that's
what I noted. Likewise, kind of following the all black, kind of hard, thick black tattoo.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what this style actually is called necessarily. Like I think of them as kind of like sailor tattoos or something, like pirate tattoos. But yeah, well, I mean,
they're all black and white.
Yeah, I noticed you're going all black. Like, was that always what you thought? Was that always what you were thinking was going to be your vibe?
I don't think I've ever gotten anything that demanded color.
Yeah.
They're all very simple tattoos. They're not like huge over the top things or these massive like pieces. They're all just like very simple little things. And so I think it just kind of happened that way. And now I really can't see myself having a tattoo with color on it. I just don't think it's my vibe.
I got the red heart there, and that's kind of the only.
But if I did it, that's a way that I would do it.
Yeah, like that's very minimal, but the tattoo is mostly thought of as black. But, I think I'm gonna stick with going with black ones as I go.
How many do you have?
I just have the 3.
Okay.
I have that guy and these. I've gotten all 3 of these from an artist in town named Brent Kai.
Okay. What's his shop called?
He, at the time, his shop isn't there anymore. His shop at the time was on 6th Street, and then now he's over on the one on like Brookstown that's on the corner.
Oh yeah, such a rad that's a rad place to have a shop.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's so cool.
Yeah, they're cool guys.
Yeah, that's right where the original Fancy Groceries sign is.
Oh really?
Yeah, that like brick corner.
Like on the side of it, like where the
is it the same place as by Camel City Goods?
Yes.
Yeah, that's right where the original Fancy Groceries is.
Okay.
The original sign is still on the window, like right next door to that tattoo parlor.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I will track
next
that
time
down.
you're over there, take a look at it.
I will.
I'm trying to get a great picture. I have one from when I first moved here, and I might just use that one. And I really want to blow it up and hang it in our store because people are always like,
Yeah. Have you seen it
or when they ask what Fancy Groceries is, I can at least point to it and be like, and that's another thing. I have one last thing to say, which is you mentioned like how cool like the historic part of Fancy Groceries is. And like, I love our paper, but I've been very surprised that our paper, like I've reached out to them so many times to be like, I have a great story for you. Like I've revived a thing from our past. Yeah. And they just have like, I've gotten the cold shoulder from them every time.
Who, the Winston-Salem?
The Winston Journal. Yeah. I just don't understand. I'm like, I've done this like this is a cool thing. Like,
I do not love our paper.
Okay.
Have you tried either Winston-Salem Monthly or Triad City Beat?
I haven't tried. So I do want to say, I think it's the Triad. No, it was Yes Weekly. Yes Weekly did come out and they did write about us and talk about us. And they've got a cool little organization there. And I was really grateful for that. And I mean, and some other people like Best of Winston has come out. I just think it's weird that like our primary paper, I was like, I pitched them the story of like, I feel like you guys should write about like the old Fancy Groceries that used to be here, and we've taken it and like we've spun it in sort of a new direction. But yeah, I don't know. I was just like, why?
And there's obviously a section in the paper that's dedicated to that type of thing.
Yeah.
But our paper, in my opinion, is way too controlled by, it's its ownership, and also it's become a lot more just in the past few years. It's become a lot more obviously geared toward becoming, just like a source of like generating online activity more so than like being a useful news outlet.
Man, that's a bummer.
Yeah.
And it's fine. I'm like, I'm not, I don't take it personally. I have more just been baffled, like, by, like, I was like, it just seems like a ripe, fun.
It is.
There's so much cool stuff about what a fancy grocery used to be. And the fact that, like, those signs are in like, you can kind of Google image search and you can find a smattering of old buildings with fancy groceries written on them.
Mm-hmm.
Very few are left. They've mostly been painted over. Like, very few signs are left. And the fact that Winston has one is really cool.
Yeah.
And like, it might be small, but it's really cool. Like, even if I didn't open a fancy groceries, like, it's really cool that like Winston has one of these like relics of like late 1800s, early 1900s America, and it's still up.
Yeah.
Like,
that's a theme in Winston, like kind of, I mean, like the Shell station, you know what I mean? Or Old Salem for that matter.
Yeah.
Just kind of like keeping things there and maybe not appreciating them.
Like, I've seen, one thing that breaks my heart is like, I've seen the old pictures of what like downtown used to look like. And the fact that we've taken down those incredible like signs, like they're the old signs that used to be the old drugstore signs, and like the shots of downtown, because like you go to other other cities, Los Angeles, and I speak to Los Angeles only because that's where I moved from, but like you go to downtown LA, every old sign is still up from however long it's from the 20s. Like, these amazing historic signs are still up. And I've always wondered like why Winston took down all of their old historic signs in favor of this like clean, like 4th Street could still look the way it does, but like imagine if all the old signs that jutted out and that were neon, like, were still up. It would just be so badass. And I've always wondered why whoever decided like those signs to come down, just an interesting decision to me.
Yeah. I'm glad Aperture kept theirs.
Yeah. No, but is there what signs on Aperture?
That it's not the metal sign that says Aperture, but that big like marquee thing or whatever.
I got to go look at that.
It's basically like a giant piece of concrete above the door that hangs off this really intense piece of metal.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, it's just like an old fixture.
See, that's like, that's what I'm talking about, man. That's so I think it's really cool that this old, like, and I think it's like a hand painted sign on this window that's like for this fancy grocery sign.
Yeah.
And so it's just amazing that it's lasted that long. And
like, where is it in relation to that Pepsi billboard?
it's directly next door to the Pepsi billboard.
Okay.
It's literally the same, like that building is the Fancy Groceries building where that
Gotcha.
Pepsi billboard is.
Gotcha.
So if you are looking for it, we even popped up in there a few times. Urban Girl Katie, who used to be in there, she used to have a store called Urban Girl, and she gave us some of our first opportunities to like test Fancy Groceries out before we ended up in the barbershop.
Very nice.
And so, yeah, it's really, really cool, man. I love that space so much. It's, I hope whoever's going in there next takes care of it. So I don't want that sign to go anywhere. Yeah.
I hope whoever listens to this who intends on buying anyone, including me, any Christmas presents, I hope it's a gift card to Fancy Groceries.
Come to Fancy Groceries. And if you are an artist or a chef or a small business, you can DM me on Instagram, and we'd love to try to bring you into our lineup, our little Sunday night parties.
Hell yeah.
The best compliment I got, someone was out there cooking, and they were like they said they felt like they were at a block, like at a New York City block party. And she was like, I used to go to block parties in New York City, and this just feels like where I'm at right now. And I was like, that is just like, that's it. Like, that's the vibe. Like, we're hanging. We got a DJ. Like, it's just rad. And I really want to I want to give people, I know Sundays are a weird day, but I also like, there's a lot that's closed in Winston on Sundays. And I had a guy who came in last night, and he was like, I just needed to get out of the house, man. Like, there was nothing to do. So I'm here to spend some money. Like, I love that. And if you're an artist, if you have something cooking, like, I don't know if I'll be able to help right away, but like, please DM me, because I want to help. And I want to figure out how to partner with just everybody who's doing cool stuff in Winston and doesn't have their own space to do it in. I hope I can help.
Hell yeah. Well, that sounds great.
Yeah.
And I'm going to try to I'll make sure a couple of my friends watch this and get in touch with you.
Yeah, I'm live music too. I'm musicians. I had a band last summer, Migrant Birds. They came out and played a few times. And,
Migrant Birds?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Guy named Spencer, I think, is the lead singer, and it was awesome. And I want to do more of that, especially with the night market. Like, I want people to come and, be able just to hang out and listen to some live music too.
I'd love
in
to
addition.
do that. So we should. I'll try to push some musicians your way too.
Yeah. So it'll be cool. I mean, we typically have a DJ who's there, and but sometimes he needs a break, and I'd love to incorporate some live music into the night as well.
You're making me think of ideas. All right.
Yeah.
We better shut it down.
I'm looking for a magician.
Talking.
Sorry, I'm looking for. I have a whole roster. I want to do a variety show.
Yeah.
I do. I want to do. We have this. Our sign in the store is this great big neon sign, and the barbershop is this giant open space. And on Saturday nights and Sundays, it's closed. And so what I want to do, I could probably seat 30 people in there, and I want to set up chairs, and I want to put a little stage underneath my like neon Fancy Groceries sign, and I want to host like a variety show that's got like, I want a stand-up comedian, I want a magician, but like I want someone who's gonna knock my socks off.
Yeah.
And I want like 2 or 3 musical acts, and like, I don't know, can you like beatbox something crazy? Are you great at slam poetry? Like, I want to put together like a really rad like Saturday night variety show, like inside the barbershop.
I have an act for you.
All right.
I can't publicly reveal what it is.
Let's talk about it after we shut this down.
Yeah,
All
we'll
right.
talk about it. Okay, that's what we'll
Cool.
do. So Max, very exciting conversation.
Thanks for having me here.
I've really enjoyed talking to you, and I really seriously, like, I hope people, if I could just like fucking tell people what to do, I would tell them to like invest heavily in what you're doing, because I really fucking believe in it. So
Thanks, man. That's very sweet. And for you guys who are listening, like, I hope that, like, I don't know, if you have an idea, like, I hope I just want to be someone who can, like, I wish I had $1 million to buy back that railroad.
Yeah.
Like, I just want, when the iron, strike when the iron's hot, I guess, So if you're feeling passionate about something, if you want to see more murals, if you want an opportunity to cook at Fancy Groceries, like, hit me up,
100%.
man. Let's make it happen.
awesome.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Max.
Yeah.